Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here. I congratulate the organizers from IJSRW and SVCET for arranging this webinar on an extremely important topic, plagiarism. Amidst the chaos and uncertainty over the COVID-19 pandemic, a headline suddenly rang out: Plagiarism Row. Indian Express withdraws economist Shamika Ravi's May 25th article. An opinion piece on India's health and economic crisis by the Brookings Institution senior fellow was found to have used the works of two fellow economists without attribution. The newspaper went into damage control and the author apologized, but the damage had been done. This sorry episode was enacted at the intersection where journalism and academia meet, giving it a traction and publicity which an entirely academic incident may not have got. Yet the problem is as serious, if not more so, in academia. Let us try to delve today into the darkness that goes by the name of plagiarism. My agenda is as follows. I will begin with understanding plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Its etymology and meaning. Then I will move to provide a historical perspective of plagiarism in India and overseas. Next, we will move to types and degrees of plagiarism. We will then try to see why people plagiarize. A discussion follows on the legal and ethical aspects of plagiarism. We will then see how to avoid plagiarism with some practical techniques. Then we will look at ways of preventing and detecting plagiarism. As many of you are teachers, we will look at how to teach about plagiarism. The final section is about how to maintain integrity while you write and present in today's environment. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the representation of another author's language, thoughts, ideas, or expressions as one's own original work. The Webster Dictionary defines it as to steal and pass off the ideas and words of another as one's own, use another's production without crediting the source, to commit literary theft, to present as new and original an idea or product derived from an existing source. The word plagiarism derives from the root plaga, based on the Indo-European root plak, meaning to weave. When you weave your work with another's, you plagiarize. You also plagiarize when you hijack someone else's work and pass it off as your own. This is the sense in which the Roman poet Martial used the word plagiarius or kidnapper to describe a fellow poet who kidnapped his verses. Plagiary, a derivative of plagiarus, was introduced into English in 1601 by dramatist Ben Jonson during the Jacobean era to describe someone guilty of literary theft. A historical understanding of the way art, literature, and scholarship have evolved is critical to understand the problem of plagiarism in perspective. Just think about it a bit. If plagiarism were a crime, why would so many decent, law abiding men and women indulge in it? These are not people who would pilfer a wad of cash even if it fell from the skies into their open palms. So, why would they engage in a furtive exercise to steal words and ideas? The reason is that plagiarism became a no-no quite late in the history of creativity, where exclusive authorship became prevalent. The oral traditions of art and poetry reveled in taking a story and embellishing it layer upon layer in the retelling. Take the Ramayana, for instance. Who is the plagiarist here? Indian mythology has it that sage Narada visits sage Valmiki's ashram and Valmiki questions him. Kaun asmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan. who is the man among all men, who is a composite of all virtues and courage. And in response, sage Narada narrates the tale of Sri Rama. So, did Valmiki steal Lord Rama's story from sage Narada's oral narration? Or did Kamban, composing the Ramavataram in lilting Tamil verse, perhaps around the year 895 AD, quietly rip off Valmiki, his precursor by perhaps 1,000 years? Hold that thought. We will revisit the Ramayana at the end of this session. Let us now look at more recent history and beyond India to other geographies. Pablo Picasso claimed that good artists copy, great artists steal. Mark Twain said, the kernel, the soul, let us go further and say the substance, the bulk, the actual and valuable material of all human utterances is plagiarism. All ideas are second-hand. Both Picasso and Twain were only articulating how the creative process works as it was perceived up until the 18th century. These geniuses understood the combinatorial nature of the creative process, just as we netizens of the information technology era understand the concept of networked knowledge. Oral traditions recognized and embraced this, and for a long time this tradition continued. Shakespeare did not pen one original play, but he made common stories great by his genius. The neoclassicist English poet Alexander Pope put it this way: true wit is nature to advantage dressed, what oft was thought, but never so well expressed. For the neoclassicists, no author could make a claim to original thought, only to a better and more appropriate presentation of previous thinking by others on the same subject. The shift in thinking came with the advent of the Romantic age. The Romantics, like Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley, and most of all Byron, believed in the originality of genius and the individuality of inspired creation. For the Romantics, individualism was a literary and cultural obsession. When this thinking was accompanied by the spread of the printing press and the growth of publishing as a viable industry, then the concept got some teeth. Even if authors regarded their work as part of a creative commons, their publishers much preferred the flowing stream of ideation to be dammed and boundaried for profit. Without capitalism and the commercialization of creativity, plagiarism would perhaps not have come to be regarded as such a dirty deed. Types of plagiarism. So much for history. We are in the here and now, and quite clearly, Picasso or Mark Twain are not correcting your next assignment. So let us understand plagiarism in the present day. Plagiarism can occur in art, literature, journalism, and academia. It can also take different forms. The first is direct copying, that is, copying another writer's words exactly as printed with no changes. That is, you find a nice paragraph and lift it verbatim and use it in your work without acknowledgement. Even if you do cite the source, a verbatim reproduction is plagiarism unless you use quotation marks to indicate borrowed material. Idea plagiarism is when you borrow an idea and paraphrase it in your own words without citing the sources. Word switch or paraphrase plagiarism happens when you use some of your own words to express another author's ideas or simply change around words while substantially relying on another's work. If your paper is simply structurally organized like another paper or adopts the same reasoning, that is plagiarism too. There can also be indirect copying. If you mix material from several sources, making a mosaic of sentences from different books or journals, that is plagiarism too. This is patchwork or potluck plagiarism. Copying from online material, text, image, or video is cyber plagiarism. Reverse plagiarism or attribution without copying refers to falsely giving authorship credit over a work to a person who did not author it. Finally, there is self-plagiarism. If you already published a piece and then use the same material in another work authored by you, even then you have plagiarized from yourself. In an educational context, self-plagiarism refers to the case of a student who resubmits the same essay for credit in two different courses. The logic behind this is that the previously published material is not only now part of a common knowledge pool, it is also part of the copyright of that journal or publisher. There are also degrees of plagiarism. A copy-paste plagiarist lifts part of another's work without citation. A photocopy plagiarist copies significant portions from another text. A global plagiarist copies a whole work, while there are also those who use a ghost writer. That is, they don't even go through the trouble of copying. Why do people plagiarize? There can be different motivations behind plagiarism. It could be simple ignorance. You simply may not know that this is wrong. This may be true of freshers or novices. Some plagiarize because their writing skills are limited and then put themselves in a downward spiral because their writing is never going to improve if they only copy paste. Research has found that the habit of academic procrastination can lead to plagiarism. Students or authors procrastinate, and when deadlines draw near or are crossed, resort to plagiarism as a quick solution. The pressure of the publish or perish culture also pushes academics to plagiarize. Then again, you may plagiarize because you are lazy. This is unforgivable. And of course, there are those who plagiarize intentionally as they are arrogant enough to believe that they will never get caught. Most of all, people plagiarize simply because it is so easy to do so, particularly because the abundance of information available in the internet age makes it so much easier to borrow than to think. Students copy because many a time the faculty does not know enough to detect plagiarism or does not care. They cannot detect plagiarized ideas. That can be done only by a truly well-read and knowledgeable reader, teacher, or critic. There are too few of such people around. Plagiarism has legal and ethical aspects. Let us first see the legal aspects. Plagiarism by itself is considered unethical rather than criminal conduct in Indian law. However, plagiarism can steer you dangerously close to copyright infringement and IPR theft. Intellectual property is a term referring to distinct types of legal monopolies over creations of the mind, both artistic and commercial, and the corresponding field of law. Under intellectual property law, owners are granted certain exclusive rights to a variety of intangible assets, such as musical, literary, and artistic works, discoveries and inventions, and words, phrases, symbols, and designs. Common types of intellectual property include copyrights, trademarks, patents, industrial design rights, and trade secrets. There are about 50 IPR-related laws and rules enacted in India. For most academics, the Copyright Act 1957, latest amendment 1999, is the most important and most frequently invoked. Copyright is a form of intellectual property applicable to any expressible form of an idea or information that is substantive and discrete. Generally, it is the right to copy, but it also gives the copyright holder the right to be credited for the work, to determine who may adapt the work to other forms, who may perform the work, who may financially benefit from it, and other rights. The Indian Copyright Act recognizes the special right of authors to claim authorship and receive attribution for their work, and also the infringement of copyright as a criminal act, thus inviting both civil and criminal action. If a work from which you have plagiarized is protected by copyright, then you would be guilty of copyright infringement. While many aspects of national copyright laws have been standardized through international copyright agreements, the development of digital media and computer network technologies have prompted reinterpretation of these exceptions, introduced new difficulties in enforcing copyright, and inspired additional challenges to copyright law's philosophical basis. Let us next look at the ethical aspects of plagiarism. The ethics of plagiarism is just the ethics of stealing. Many people are able to plagiarize without being caught. However, stealing is never a good idea and it is not ethical. But it is not even the act of stealing that is the true crime. Rather, it is the act of deception that inflicts moral harm on all parties by damaging the reputation of the plagiarist and others, insulting others' intelligence, and harming the integrity of all. In a larger context, plagiarism as deceptive communication affects everyone. The ethical implications can thus have serious consequences for organizations, individuals, and society. At the educational micro level, plagiarism impacts the student. If you plagiarize in school or college, not only will your reputation be tarnished, but you could be kicked out of the university that you attend. Students that are caught plagiarizing another student or author could be expelled or suspended, or could have this offense listed on their academic record as an ethics offense. Having an ethics offense on your student record could prevent you from being accepted into another high school or college. That is why the ethical repercussions of plagiarism are as grave as or even graver than the legal or criminal repercussions. How to detect plagiarism? Here, I address only the academic plagiarism of students. Literary and art plagiarism has other and more sophisticated tools. 1. Warning signs. Keep a lookout for warning signs such as unusual phrasing, noticeable unevenness of style between paragraphs within the same paper, concepts that seem too sophisticated for class level, unclear or incorrect sources listed in the bibliography, inconsistent writing styles or diction choices between different writing samples of the same student. Search engines. Enter an unusual phrase or sentence into a standard search engine like Google and see if a match is found. Then use larger portions of the paper. Hold a brief viva or chat with the student and discuss the paper to assess the student's familiarity with her own paper. Familiarize yourself with the websites that offer papers and essays for free or payment. Use a plagiarism checker. How do you avoid plagiarism? Or in other words, what is not plagiarism? If you have read material from several sources, reviewed the scholarship, internalized the ideas, synthesized ideas from different sources, thought about it and developed your own thought process, then articulated it in your own words, finally citing the scholarship from which your own thought process has had its genesis, then you have not plagiarized. Here are some techniques which will help you to avoid plagiarism. Read reference material very carefully. Then put it aside and think about it for a while. Reflect about how the present material connects with other scholarship that you have previously read. Reflect about how the present material connects with your own ideas. Later, write it in your own words without looking at the source again. Then cite the author using the appropriate citation. Put any words or paragraphs lifted verbatim in quotes and reference them. If a fact is common knowledge, there is no need to document it. Get written permission to use any previously published illustrations, figures, tables, or photographs. Run it through a plagiarism checker. How do you teach about plagiarism? Teaching students about academic integrity and plagiarism should help them understand not just what to avoid, copying others' work without acknowledgement, but also what they should aspire to, joining the academic conversation in order to influence it. Students will give these lessons special weight when conveyed by faculty members whose expertise they respect. Effective education about plagiarism often involves the following components. Include an academic integrity warning in your syllabus. An effective warning will warn the student of penalties for teaching as well as encourage them to take an active role in the academic conversation. Students need to understand that plagiarism is not just a legalistic requirement but part of a positive requirement of academic honesty, which is a reputational precondition for a successful career. Provide expanded definitions and examples of plagiarism so that the students can refer to and study this as part of their course. Discuss case studies of plagiarism. 3. Develop exercises that deepen students' understanding of citing sources so that they understand the correct and incorrect uses of sources, usually in concert with a writing project. In the end, there are just 3 tools to avoid plagiarism. Cite, cite, cite. Citation is a simple academic courtesy that you extend to your colleagues. I spoke of Ramayana of Valmiki and Kamban when I began my talk. Let us return to the Ramayana now. Valmiki Ramayana begins with the verse Tapasvadhyaya Niratam Tapasvagvidam Varam Naradam Paripaprachaha Valmikir Muni Pungavam. Ascetic Valmiki inquired of Narada, preeminent among the sages, best among the eloquent. Who in this world lives today endowed with excellent qualities, prowess, righteousness, gratitude, truthfulness, and firmness to his vows? Invited by Valmiki to take his seat, Narada, knower of the 3 worlds, heard him and said with delight, "Listen to me," and thus spoke. Thus Valmiki, while composing the Ramayana, acknowledges sage Narada's narration in the very beginning and even quotes him, saying, "And this Narada spoke." Kamban, writing the Ramavataram in Tamil, sings, தேவப்படையின் நிக்கதை செய்தவர் மூவரானவர் தம்முளம் முந்திய நாவினான் உரையின்படி நான் தமிழ்ப்பாவினால் இது உணர்த்திய பண்பு அரோ. He states in the invocation that of the 3 poets, Valmiki, Vasishthar and Bodhayanar, who wrote the story of Rama in Sanskrit, he followed the first author, Valmiki, for his Tamil version. The Indian scholarly and literary tradition was an ethical tradition. Much before the terms copyright or citation were even heard of, much before copying became a criminal offense and citation became ethical, the Indian dharmic heritage put in place this system of saujanya, courtesy. So, in an age of internet proliferation and information overload, for us, this is easy. Just be Indian. Thank you all very much.